This camera is kind of weird. But at the same time, God, I'm overweight. Of course, one day I'm going to get my six-pack abs, but I just got off of work. I can tell you the things that I really love about UPS and the things I don't really like so much. Now, a lot of people really, really like work UPS, but as far as what they don't say, it is mostly part-time jobs, which isn't a bad thing if you live with your parents or you have a husband that works a lot. Of course, if you don't have those things, then of course it's a bad place. But you can work a second job. It just depends on person. But the good about UPS is it's a great job, hard to get fired. Unlike Amazon, which fired me fast. Would I go back to Amazon? I don't know. I mean, maybe I would. But why would I go there just to get fired? I would probably... Can you make it at Amazon without losing your job? Well, I really don't know. I'd have to watch someone else's video. What I don't like about UPS is it's difficult to get a full-time position. And, you know, I would love it if, you know, maybe I could get a second job or get more income. The truth of the matter is, within UPS, is that if I were to leave UPS, it would be mostly a personal decision. You know, I really do like it there, and I really wanted to be a driver, but it's very difficult. And it's very difficult to get ahead at UPS sometimes. You know, everything that they create is more part-time jobs, and hopefully with the next new contract, because every year every year the Teamster Union always signs a new contract. I have not read the details of the Teamster Union contract. I'd have to, message my union. The great thing about the Teamsters or any union is you can pretty much message them with, you can pretty much just message them, contact them anyway. They're very, they're very, 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 into, things like, they're very, very into things like, they're very, very into things like, so if I wanted to file a grievance, I could go to my union, but I wouldn't know what I would file a grievance for. The only way you file a grievance is things like, things like, being mistreated badly, being threats of termination, or accusations that maybe you stole something. Those are how the union defend you. Now, there are some good about UPS. It is mostly a part-time company, unless you're a driver. Drivers probably make the most. The average driver makes about... They say they have drivers that make $120,000 a year. Of course, I don't, getting there, UPS usually, in the past, my biggest problem with becoming a driver is the training. The training is bullshit. They don't train you as well as they should. They train you... They basically say, oh, yeah, here, drive this truck. Hopefully you hit something, you get disqualified. And that's what happened to me, was I hit a curb. Now, would I try to do it again? Here's the thing. If I'm feeling up to it, I would try it again. But if I decide to quit UPS, for another industry, that I maybe have, want to do better in, some people really like it here, but I will tell you that UPS isn't for people that have rent to pay and have other financial needs to meet. And I will say this. if I could talk to corporate headquarters and tell them how to make my workplace better, and I will say to them this: you need to improve training and have more full-time opportunities, because some of us are housing insecure. Some of us sleep at other friends' house. We cannot survive on part-time pay forever. Now, what I think UPS needs to do is that they need to... I think I wouldn't know what changes would be made. It would be made through the union. They say we're going to create more full-time jobs, or the higher up corporate people. But being union is a great thing. Unions do have downsides, but speaking from someone that has worked in companies with very tough anti-union stance, I hope Amazon workers, PetSmart workers, and people in any other industry do unionize, because if we had more unions, we can prevent, worker abuse, being unfairly terminated, having respect in the workplace, because there's a reason why people want to form unions. And a lot of that is because the people are fed up. They're fed up with coming to work, you can't make your ends meet, your wages get stagnated, and I see it time and time again. Now, the thing about what can be a good thing and a bad thing about a union is some people say, well, unions, you don't get a voice. Well, you don't get a voice in a non-union company, because what ends up happening is that exploitation happens, When I was working in Amazon, and I could speak to other Amazon package employees, you are told all the time, you are timed all the time. You have, the breaks are too small, are too low. You only get 15-minute breaks. Now I think they might have done it. But you have to keep moving at high speeds. And the pick rate is completely unfair. People should have the right to work with dignity and not be exploited. What I saw when I was working at Amazon was I call abusive working conditions. And people say, well, to people that don't work for Amazon, I can tell you the truth. You get up and you start work and you go to your station. If you're late, that's what they call time off task. So when you go to work, you have to keep moving boxes. The work is very grueling and very abusive. I didn't want to be fired, but they fired me because I went home too early. The problem is they basically can fire you. There's not really any reason to fire you. It can be a computer error. And this, to me, is Amazon's way of creating a culture of intimidation. You don't get any respect at Amazon. The reason why Amazon always keeps hiring people is they can fire, 20 more. And so you're out of a job and you got to find another job. And I've met too many people that have had that same boat too. What I wish Jeff Bezos would understand is Amazon workers are people too. They just want to come to work, not have to be intimidated, and want a safe, respectable environment. They want breaks, more breaks. What Amazon workers are really asking for is a living wage. $15 an hour in most cities is considered poverty level wages. Especially in Dallas, where the average rent is now $1,500. Now, Dallas and Fort Worth aren't New York City, but I think it's going to get there eventually. But other cities in Texas, like Austin, their rents are the average decent rent plus other living expenses the wages need to be kept up. They need to be kept up for the sake of having to get people out of poverty. The reason I live with my parents is if it weren't for parents, I would be sleeping under a bridge somewhere or in a homeless shelter. And I know too many people in those same boats. We need better living wages because that's what I hope UPS can be better at, is more full-time positions. My dream job is all I want is a career that I can make an honest living doing, because for too long in my life I've just boomerang jobs, got fired, and I just can't do this anymore. I just turned 36 this year, and I've been depressed because I've had 15 years of being employed or unemployed, and I have to suffer. I don't say I want to live this way forever. I know too many people that live this way, and the demographic's a group called musicians. And musicians, artists, and people that freelance will take jobs. They'll either quit and then pursue it. I know someone who was in a band, would work and then quit and then work again. And the touring in his band got so grueling, he just said enough was enough. And we want people that are creative people that want to be able to make a living in their art to be able to make a living in art. Because in the world of being a musician, if you're even a modest, successful superstar now, there's no financial cushion. Record sales are pretty much done. And now with COVID, live concerts were canceled for a whole year. People lost their jobs, and even musicians lost their jobs. And other forms of entertainment were canceled. And when you take that all away, you take away people's income. A lot of people, musicians aren't the most educated group. And a lot of musicians are going back to college because they're just fed up with the unstableness of being on tour all the time, the unstableness of wondering how can we make ends meet anymore. It shouldn't have to be this way, but yet with streaming, and streamers don't pay the best. Spotify only pays 50 cents per the dollar. So in order, a musician, unless you had like 8 billion streams, or the problem I have with streaming services is that they've kind of, what I call, favored out certain artists. And there are a lot of hundreds of good artists I really love. But yet, why do we create a musical climate where Faith Hill gets millions of dollars, but yet a little artist, why does Doja Cat why does Billie Eilish or Lady Gaga, when there's 20 other girls that really want those jobs, want to make a living? And I'm not saying everybody should be able to make a living in music, but however, I believe that we should live in a musical economy that's fair to all. Because the musical climate in this country is not fair. What you have when you allow big, music streaming services, and people don't understand, Spotify can literally take off, they can delete artists. And that's why I prefer to buy music, because you really own it when you own the record. You don't own that song or own the rights to that song when you stream something. When you stream something, it's basically not yours. It's never yours. And I want to encourage more consumers to buy music. Not saying they got to buy every artist they love, but buy the artist so that way you can support him, which is why I like Bandcamp, because with Bandcamp, you buy the track and you own it forever. It will never disappear. It will never be taken off. And too many times, what can happen when we give so much control, because, you know, I was a child of the 90s and Britney Spears was my favorite artist. And then you kind of see how we let, you know, us fans who love an artist, you know, especially happens to teenage artists that grow up and don't want to grow up. What often happens is that we've allowed this exploitation to happen. What I think really happened, if you want to truly put the blame on, it's the music industry is a very complex place full of business people and A&R reps and publicists, you know. I think it'd be, I've thought about being a publicist for the music industry. You know, represent bands, you know. Help them grow their careers, you know, because for working artists, you know, you need all you can to get yourself out there. It shouldn't be focused entirely on streaming. You have to tour, play shows, work your ass off every day. And I think if COVID can teach us something, it can teach us how we value artists. And I think in some ways COVID might have been the best thing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about one other industry, is live music, which like music, like, or, you know, workers at work in bars, restaurants, you know, who are tipped employees. If there's a reason why bartenders are getting the hell out, and especially bartenders in my age group, it's because it's a great job when you're young, out of high school. But what happens, because I've actually met bartenders who are 30 years old who started, and they thought it would be a great career. They make thousands a week in tips. But what you really lose is you know, you might have some good times and bad times, you know, and depending on where your bar is located, where your bar is located will impact how many tips you have. If your bar is located in a poor neighborhood where people live on welfare, you're not going to get any tips. If your bar is located next to a hotel with rich people, you'll get probably millions of tips. The truth of the matter is, though, is that customers like to tip and sometimes play games with you, you know. But anyway, I have to go. So this is Liam Delaney signing out.